Hello, I'd like to give you a basic introduction to Midpoint, and the way I teach it in my classroom is I first start by talking about another student and myself going into a candy business. And so I might say, Johnny in class, he's going to go over to another high school and he's going to sell candy. I'm going to stay at the high school we're at, sell candy here. And this business that we go into, we make an agreement from the beginning that no matter how much we sell, we're going to split the sales 50-50. And so he goes over to this other high school and he sells $2 worth of candy. I, being at the high school that I'm at, being a teacher, a position of influence, and forcing students to buy candy from me, I sell $100 worth. So the question is, if he sells $2 and I sell $100, how much do we both get to take home if we're splitting it 50-50? Well, most students can quickly come up with, hey, it's $51. That's how much we both get to come home with. How do we know? Well, he has $2. I have 100. You add them up, divide by 2. 2 plus 100, 102, divided by 2 gives you 51. That, what you just found, is the midpoint between 2 and 100. So if we're looking at this, let's say on a number line, here's our number line, and right here is going to be 2. Get my cursor to work. 2. Right here is 100. And 51 is smack dab in the middle. Notice if we were to say 51 minus 2, that would give us the distance between 2 and 51. That would be 49. And then 100 minus 51 is also 49. And so since this point is splitting this into two congruent segments, we know that 51 must be the midpoint. And how did we find that? We said 2 plus 100 divided by 2. So making this look a little bit more algebraic, let's call this position X and this position X. Well, we can't call them both X because then that's confusing. So I'll call one, let's name him X1, and the other X2. So if we wanted to write a general formula for how much Johnny and I get to take home each day, because tomorrow he might sell more, tomorrow I might sell less or more, it could be either way. The general formula would be add up how much he makes plus how much I make and divide that number by 2. That's how much we get to take home. That is midpoint. But that's midpoint. Let's write mid so we don't get confused with slope. That's midpoint on just one axis. It's not on two axes, however the plural is for that. So let's take a look at what it looks like on 2. And if you were able to follow me with that candy sales problem, this one shouldn't be too much harder. So if we have an x and a y axis here, and we've got a point, say at, 2, 4, and another point at -6, -1 over here, and we want to know what is the midpoint between these 2 points, I'm going to do the exact same thing I did last time. I'm going to label my x1, y1, and I'm going to label x2, y2. And so last time we got x1 plus x2 and divided it by 2. We're going to do the exact same thing, but we're going to do it with the y's as well. y1 plus y2 and put it over 2. And now we're just going to substitute those values in. So let's see, x1 is 2. x2 is -6, so we get plus -6 over 2. And then y1 is 4. y2 is -1. We're going to add those, put that over 2. 2 plus a -6 is -4. 4 minus 1 is going to give me 3. And so the midpoint is going to be at -2, 3/2, or 1.5. And I always want you to kind of take, if you got a graph, that's a negative, If you've got a graph, try to graph it out. Now I know this is pretty a crude graph here because I don't have actual lines on it, but we can still say, okay, that value is about 2, so I'm going to go over here 2, and then up 3/2, which is about 1.5. And look, even without blocks on there, you can kind of tell that this looks like, if I were to draw a straight line, best I can by hand here, this point looks like it's about halfway between there. And so that's kind of a good check there if you've got that ability to do it. Now, one other way, this is our midpoint formula by the way, here in red. That's midpoint formula. And that's what you'll see in your book. x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2. Sometimes students get this mixed up because you got all these formulas you're memorizing. You're remembering distance formula, midpoint formula, slope, and a few others. Another way I teach it is to do this. Once you get the hang of this and the actual concept behind midpoint, how to find it, you can go through this a little bit quicker by writing out your 2 points, 2, 4, and -6, -1. Just write them out like that, right over top of each other, and then add them. So 2 plus -6 is -4. 4 plus -1 is 3. And then just don't forget, you got to divide them by 2. And I know I'm going sideways again here. Sorry about that. It's the input device I use. So -4 divided by 2 is -2. And once again, we get 3/2 there. So we get the same answer. And I will probably use this method in class just because I want my students to remember it. But this doesn't hurt to see this a few times so you understand why you divide by 2, hopefully. And remember that what's written in red right here, this is an ordered pair. All of this mess right here, the x1 plus x2 divided by 2, that's the x coordinate of your midpoint. The y1 plus y2 divided by 2, that looks like a 0, but that's a 2. That is your y coordinate of the midpoint. Okay? So keep that in mind and go back to practicing. Have a good day.